Some evenings stay with you forever. Not because something extraordinary happened, but because they quietly changed the way you looked at life. I remember one such evening as clearly as if it were yesterday. Rain tapped gently against the porch roof while an old kettle hissed on the stove. The coffee between my hands had already gone cold, but I didn't notice. At my age, memories have a strange way of keeping you warmer than any cup ever could. Across from me sat a man I had known for more than 30 years. He wasn't the kind of man people pitied. He had worked hard all his life. He had built a home with his own hands. He had never forgotten an anniversary, never raised his voice, never spent a night away from his family. From the outside, he looked like the sort of husband every father hoped his daughter would marry. Yet that evening, he looked completely lost. He stared into his untouched coffee for what felt like forever before speaking. I didn't lose my wife the day she left. His voice barely rose above the sound of the rain. I lost her long before she packed her suitcase. Then he fell silent again. I've lived long enough to know that the longest conversations are often the ones interrupted by silence. After a while, he reached into his wallet. It was old. The leather had softened with age, the corners worn smooth by thousands of ordinary days. From a hidden pocket, he pulled out a photograph. The edges had faded. The colors had almost disappeared. There they were. Two young people standing beside a lake, laughing at something neither of them would ever remember. On the back of the photograph, written in blue ink, were just 3 words. Forever starts today. He smiled. Not because it was funny, because life sometimes has a cruel sense of humor. "I still carry it," he whispered. "I don't even know why." Neither did I. Maybe we never really throw away the people we once believed would grow old beside us. We simply learn to carry them differently. People often ask me when a marriage begins to fall apart. They're usually expecting a dramatic answer, a betrayal, a secret, another person. But after all these years, I've come to believe something far more unsettling. Most marriages don't collapse because of one terrible day. They slowly fade beneath thousands of ordinary ones. One forgotten conversation, one distracted dinner, one maybe tomorrow, then another and another, until tomorrow quietly becomes years. My friend told me he had noticed small changes, not the kind you read about in magazines, nothing obvious. She simply stopped asking whether he'd eaten. She no longer waited to hear his stories from work. When he walked through the front door, she smiled politely, the way people smile at neighbors, not at the person they once couldn't wait to see. He thought she was tired. Life had been difficult. Bills, work, children, age. He convinced himself that every marriage eventually became quieter. What he didn't realize was that silence and peace are not the same thing. Months later, another man entered her life. Not as a lover, not at first. Just someone who noticed the things my friend had slowly stopped seeing. He remembered how she took her coffee. He asked how her day had gone, and actually waited for the answer. He laughed at stories that no one else thought were important. People think emotional affairs begin with flirting. Sometimes They begin with listening. The heart has never cared much about grand gestures. It remembers the smallest kindnesses. A chair pulled closer. A message asking if you arrived home safely. Someone noticing you've been unusually quiet. These things seem insignificant until someone has been starving for them. One afternoon, months before she finally left, my friend came home earlier than usual. She was standing by the kitchen window. The house was completely silent. Her phone lit up. She didn't move. She simply smiled. It wasn't a loud smile. It wasn't excitement. It was recognition. The kind of smile that appears when someone makes you feel visible again. My friend saw it. He told me later, "It wasn't jealousy that broke me. It was realizing I hadn't been the reason for that smile in years." I have never forgotten those words, because they weren't spoken with anger, only regret. Now let me tell you something that many people are afraid to admit. This story isn't really about another man. If it hadn't been him, life might have sent someone else. The names change, the faces change. The ending rarely does. Loneliness has an incredible talent for recognizing another lonely soul. Does that excuse betrayal? No. Some lines should never be crossed. Promises matter. Loyalty matters. Character matters. But understanding why a bridge collapses isn't the same as approving its collapse. You repair future bridges by learning what weakened the first one. Years passed. My friend never remarried. Neither did she. Funny how life works. One afternoon, long after everything had ended, they met by accident in a small grocery store. No anger, no shouting, no tears. Just two people standing in front of a shelf full of coffee they once drank together every Sunday morning. They smiled, asked about each other's health, spoke about their grandchildren. Then they walked away. He told me later that what hurt most wasn't losing her. It was realizing they had become strangers long before either of them admitted it. That sentence has followed me ever since. These days, when young people ask me what destroys love, they expect me to mention lies, or temptation, or another person. I usually shake my head. Love rarely disappears in one unforgettable moment. It quietly slips away through hundreds of forgettable ones. The evenings when nobody asks how your day was. The mornings when gratitude is replaced by routine. The conversations interrupted by glowing screens. The gentle touches postponed until tomorrow. Most people spend years protecting their marriage from outsiders, while leaving it completely unprotected from neglect. If there is one lesson an old man can leave behind, perhaps it is this: never assume the person beside you already knows they matter. Tell them. Show them. Listen a little longer than necessary. Hold their hand for no reason at all. Look into their eyes when they speak, even if you've heard the story before. One day, those ordinary moments will become someone's most precious memories, or their deepest regrets. And believe an old man when he tells you this. The greatest rival to love has never been another man or another woman. It has always been the quiet distance that grows between two people while neither of them notices it, until one day there is nothing left to say.